Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. What's up, Clinton? Hooligan? Miss Dawn, Travis, Kyler, John again. Mr. Richard McGee, Miss Linda Sanders Wise, the one and only Kelvin Medina, Clarissa Grantham, the ever majestic Amanda Gilbert, Justin White. Thank everybody for coming in to catch some of this education, some of these knowledge bombs we about to drop. Tammy Cersei, thank you for joining in. Zach Rasmussen, Linda Mitchell, Jeff Passion. Not much. Rachel is finishing up talking. She's talking to News 9 right now. Then she's going to hop in here and we're going to discuss some things. Some stuff and some things. Hello, Charlotte Lockman. Saber Scott, my little sister. You're digging the braided hawk? Thank you. Yeah, it keeps it out of my face. Mr. Jeremy Deadman. What's up? Industry man, Miley Haynes. He knows what's up. He's worked in this shit before. Patricia Clark, thanks for joining in. Give us the knowledge. Drop the knowledge. Old JJ up in the crowd. And Stephanie Weber, thank you. I'm going to read off every one of y'all's names because you all deserve to have your name said as you walk in the door to this. So, Taylor Searley, welcome. Kyle Early. One of the most glorious beards around. Hi, Miss Ashley Cruz. Chris Norman, thanks for joining the party. Matthew Campbell, I got my fucking eye on you. Chris Waggle, hello. Stephanie Weber. Beautiful Megan Deadman. April Enos. Miss Lisa Sellers, thank you for that. Miss Paula Collins, appreciate it, Kevin. Y'all know why we fight. Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm waiting to sit you down in person so I can take mental note and then check all your story out and figure out what your angle is, because I know you got one. I'm gonna find out. You speaketh in many groups. What's up, Chris Norman, Tracy Carroll, Deanne Elizabeth, Bo Langston, Aaron Cooper, I know you're losing your mind over this edible things. Miss Lexi Hamilton, Carla Williams. See Bates News Conference? I have not. I'm going to sit back tonight and watch it. I'm going to sit back tonight and watch it, baby. Adam Harper, thank you. Carla Williams, I don't know if I said your name already. Miss Bussett will be here shortly. Bobby Fleming in the house, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait to hear about the edibles. Oh, I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Damon back fighting for what's known as Damon's Law. A felony, especially not a cannabis felony, should keep you from gainful employment in the cannabis industry once it is regulated. We shall not force our rehabilitated to work at fucking fast food and give them an industry and a career. Get them right back on the right track, supporting them in their rehabilitation. So, that being said, it's a fucking main point, and I'm not going to argue it with anybody sitting in a suit. It's already being overturned. It's the will of the people. We know that. What's up, David Harris? What's up, Zapita Gutierrez? great. Here. Bates looks beaten down. I talked to floor leader Eccles earlier. He said it's been a long day. I said I have kind words for you, my friend. So please call me when you can. He said I'll talk to you soon. So expecting a call from him tonight to discuss some things at length. I'm sure he's getting a lot of it. We've had good conversations. I think he's a responsible and reasonable person. So I look forward to hearing from him. And yeah, infusion is being considered illegal. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Rachel Bussett-Simco. What's up, Robert Torres?
Hello.
Hello. I know everybody wants you in the big screen. Did you hear that? They're like, can we have her in the big screen and not you? Like, fuck you.
Whatever.
I'm pretty too.
You're beautiful. It's that mohawk, you know.
I got it braided.
I love it.
Yeah, it keeps it out of my floppy, so I'm not floppy.
All right.
We got 54 people here. Everybody is confused and everybody is bewildered and everybody is up in arms. So that being said, why don't you bring us up to date with what you feel transpired today? And why don't you just kind of take the floor? I will randomly potentially interrupt you with questions of relevance from the crowd, so you don't have to mind keeping up. And I'm also going to be saying hi to everybody. Her, Scott, everybody. All right, Norma Sapp's here.
All right, hi Norma. So
please, before we get started, since we're here, guys, please take this time and let's take 90 seconds to breathe, to think about our questions, and to share this video out so that we get as many people right now live as we can. So if you're in a group, share this to a group. If you got friends in the fight, man, just share it, and we'll give 90 seconds for this thing to top out and everybody to get in here, and we'll be present. Everybody will have a voice. Everybody will be represented. So let's just chill. Woosah. How was your day? I know you're just coming back from vacation.
it was a good day. I mean, I was at the legislature. I was at the Department of Health. I never sat behind my desk.
I went today and was gifted a whole box of Next Level pre-rolls.
Look at you. I don't have
know, right? So I'm like, right on, brother. Sick brand. This type of business that we're trying to bring to Oklahoma, type of legitimacy, clearly packaged, clearly labeled.
There you go.
All right. So we got the shares going out, sharing to Illegally Healed. We're giving everybody a little bit of time. How was your vacation?
Vacation was wonderful. Took the family to Hilton Head and played on the beach. Took my little ones to the beach for the first time. So that was fantastic.
Do you have any particular event that happened while you were out there that made it memorable? Did you see any dolphins or
no,
ain't that shark territory?
No, we didn't really see anything like that. It was just getting out there and letting them get in the water and play in the waves and stuff. They've had the little guys have been through a lot in the last few years with dealing with divorce and going back and forth with their dad and their mom, and they've kind of really gotten to a stable place where they're getting over a lot of fear that they've had. And so seeing them really get out and explore and get out in the water and take that on when they've been scared of that kind of stuff before was a lot of fun. And then seeing them bond with the big kids.
They're growing up. I'm sorry, it's my partner calling. I hit the FU button. Rim Striker.
Okay.
Rich,
is that who we were talking about?
Yeah, Rich Rim Striker or something like that, out of Newport Beach. I got his name, so I'll let you look him up.
Okay.
Hey, everybody coming in. Gerald Mays, Melinda, all these lovely people. I think we've given everybody enough time to share. My beautiful girlfriend's finally here. What's up, boo? How do you do? Hi. All right. So,
You want to start this? I think we're ready. We're at 93. We're close to 100, so people will be piling in.
They're coming in.
Yeah.
All right, so we started the day off with a meeting at the Department of Health, and that was myself and my associate Kelly Hensley and Ron Durbin, who is the attorney for Green the Vote, and he has the lawsuit that's in Oklahoma County that's against the individuals, excuse me, on the Board of Health and the governor. And so our lawsuit, us, has been requesting a meeting with the Department of Health, the AG, since shortly after we filed this, starting the day that we filed it, by sending a request to Julia Zell, who we didn't know what was happening then until next week, which explained why she didn't answer me. But before today have sent 5 requests to the Department of Health and or the Attorney General to say, let's sit down, let's meet, let's talk about these rules. The most important thing is not litigation. The most important thing is that we sit down, talk about this, get rules in place that reflect what is 788 and move forward, because this is about getting this to the people of the state of Oklahoma. And until 6 a.m. today, I got no offer of a meeting. And that offer of a meeting came only after I said to Commissioner Bates, I'm aware that you have offered Mr. Durbin a meeting, and I don't understand why you're not communicating with me, in that it's my lawsuit that has caused the AG to issue an opinion, and it's my lawsuits that's caused these rules to be changed. Why aren't you meeting with me? And I set out some specific rules that I had an objection to. And so he offered me a meeting at 9 a.m. And I said, no, I'm going to the legislative session. And so he said, okay, 10 o'clock. And I said, okay, fine. What he didn't know is that I was coming to his 7:30 meeting with Mr. Durbin. So he was a little surprised when I got there. And it took him a minute to put it together who I was. So, and we have a recording of that meeting. We did miss a few minutes of it, but, you know, Oklahoma is a one-party recording state, and as long as one party of the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's legal to record it, and I knew it was being recorded, so I recorded it. And so wherein that meeting, we discussed the problems with the rules. In particular, we discussed the problems with rule number 310-681-5-9. And when you look at that rule, it looks fairly innocuous. It looks like it's not a big deal. It's a bunch of legalese. It incorporates in a bunch of other statutes. But if you don't know what those statutes are, you know, then you're going to just go gloss over it. But if you really dig into and find out what all those other statutes are, then you find out, well, they've really kind of shut down the business again. And so they've taken 70 some odd pages and they've moved it down to 20 pages. But, oh yeah, we have screwed the business again by adopting all of these statutes, because they say that they adopted it to the extent it's not contrary to 788, except they have in whole adopted statutory language into these rules that directly contradicts 788. So you can't adopt language that contradicts 788 and so say, but oh, we're just kidding, it doesn't really violate 788. That's not how the law works. That's not how the language of the law works. The proper rulemaking authority, because they have the authority to make standards for processing marijuana from the plant into oils, edibles, and for dispensing. They absolutely have the authority to do that. So they were within their authority of doing that. But the proper thing to do was to look at these statutes, which were a great basis, and then adapt them to the marijuana business, not to just say, oh, these work for all other food and drug standards, so they work here. it's not a one size fits all application.
Absolutely not.
So that's one of the big problems. And then the second problem is throughout these rules, they refer to commercial licensees, and they group growers, retailers, and producers together as commercial licensees. Well, there's different standards and rules that apply to the different classes of licenses. And again, in Rule 5-9, they're lumping a grower in with the producer and the dispensary. And so they're basically creating a situation where you're growing an agricultural product in restaurant industry standards. And we don't grow wheat in restaurant industry standards. Why would you grow cannabis in such a way? The AG said they don't have the authority to tell licensees that they have to grow indoors and you can't see it and you can't smell it and you can't do all of these things. They don't have the authority to adopt these food safety standards to the growing of it. And so
real quick, somebody asked why they went into that private meeting. I know that everybody was curious about them going behind closed doors.
Okay, so that's executive session. And so the Administrative Procedures Act allows administrative agencies to go into what's called administrative session for certain things. And they called an executive session to go behind closed doors to have an attorney-client meeting, because they can only meet in a quorum.
Was that the Attorney General? Was that with the Attorney General?
I'm not sure who all was in it, because I wasn't in the main boardroom. I was in the overflow room, and we had a whole lot of reverb in there.
Does that have to be documented, who all was present?
It should be in the minutes, but we're not going to get the minutes of what was discussed, but there'll be a minutes of who was present. That should be there, yeah. Okay, so, cool. But they went back in the room and they specifically said that they were discussing our lawsuit as well as Mr. Durbin's lawsuit for agreeing the vote. And that's all that we know. One of the things that I thought was interesting was in our meeting with Mr. Bates this morning, we pointed out the issue about the commercial licensees and applying these standards to growers. And he said, oh, no, we didn't mean that to happen. We agree that shouldn't apply to growers. And we talked about why that should be changed.
And that's admitting, that your plans are flawed, that there's a potential for everything to be flawed, and you pass something without really understanding it.
Correct. And so they said, oh, no, that's not what we meant to do.
I bet she got a phone call. Time to take a break, fire up one of these joints I got from Next Level. We'll get Miss Rachel back in here. As of right now. She'll be back. She'll be back. Her phone never stops ringing, I know. Smoke them if you got them, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Miss Rachel Bussett-Simco. Yeah. It won't let me add you in now. Can you request him come in any way? I'm trying to add you back. Oh, here we go. Booyah! Yeah.
Oh. Hey.
That's popular.
Sorry, I tried to decline the call and then it froze up. Hi.
Hello.
This is my daughter, Madeline. She's home from college for the summer.
Hello, Madeline.
Say hi. Hi. It's
Your
funny,
mom's
phone
doing
had to
great
be
work.
hit. The laptop. Yeah, you know. So she's laughing because I've got the computer screen going behind you, and it's a little bit slower than the phone.
Throws me off when Gabby watches me from sitting across from me, and I can hear the laughs. And it throws me into
Yeah.
yeah.
Do me a favor and go get me some. Thank you, babe. So when we were talking to Bates this morning, like, he recognized that this wasn't supposed to apply to growers, and we talked about it, and we said, hey, why don't we, and we really want to work with you guys. We want to get these rules right. Instead of voting on this stuff today, let's delay. Let's all work together for the next week or so and get these rules worked out so they do what 788 intends. We're happy, you're happy, everybody's happy. We don't have to continue with this litigation, and everything can be done. And he said, well, we really feel like we have to get things done. And we said, okay, well then how about we adopt some of the licensing, but we don't vote on some of these things that we agree have problems.
We can step these out and do it right.
We discussed that.
Right.
Right. And so we really thought that that's what was going to happen as we were going in. Keep the dogs out, please. As we were going into the hearing with the Board of Health this afternoon, I got emailed to me a special entry of appearance and reservation of time, which is a document that's usually done if they're going to file a motion to dismiss, or they're going to challenge jurisdiction, or they're okay with giving up certain defenses. They just need additional time to answer. And I thought, oh, well, this indicates to me that maybe they're willing to do what we talked about, and they're going to do the right thing, especially then when right after they did the roll call and approved their past minutes, they went into executive session to talk about the lawsuit. Durbin and I looked at each other across the table and we're like, wow, are they really going to do this? Are they going to do the right thing? And we got sort of excited, and they were gone forever, and then they came back and immediately, without any discussion, approved these rules and adjourned.
That quick.
And so that concerns me. Right.
Michelle Anderson asks, are these elected officials or appointed?
They're appointed.
Who appoints them?
I have to look, but I think the governor appoints them. Okay. Each board's done a little bit differently. And I don't remember off the top of my head.
We should find out that information, and everybody should start referring to these people as Governor Fallon appointed so-and-so, so that everybody knows.
I can tell you the statute that tells it. It's 63 OS 1-103. Let me see if I can get it pulled up while we're sitting here talking on my computer. I multitask. If I didn't multitask, I would never get all of it done.
You're great. I think everybody agrees with me. You've got 110 people in here hanging on your every word and cheering you on. I heard a lot of people talking about you running for governor, but I'm going to have to ask that you don't do that anytime soon, because we got a lot of work to do here.
Well, it's at least 4 years, right? Because we're past the statutory filing deadline. All right. State Board of Health, yeah, appointed by the governor. So we've got statutes that are changing. There are 3 versions of 1-103 right now. There is the statute that's in effect until November 1st. Then there's a statute that will go into effect November 1st that will be effective until January. And then in January, there's a new statute that goes into effect, because in January, the board really kind of loses all of its power and becomes advisory. And the commissioner is the one that has all the power. So
who's our
under
commissioner?
The new scenario, right now, interim commissioner is Bates.
Okay. Will he still be the commissioner, or will he be gone after November?
I don't know. They haven't made a determination. You know, our department of, so since you haven't been living here and you're in the process of moving back, what you don't know is the Department of Health, surprise, surprise, has been embroiled in all kinds of controversy over the last year with all kinds of missing money and misappropriation of funds. And then, surprise, there was a surplus of money. And we had a guy who, Dorflinger, I think is his name, who had some problems working in other government agencies, who was overseeing the Board of Health, that had to step down. So, you know, there's all kinds of, you know, alleged corruption and controversy happening within state agencies. So including the Board of Health. Oh no, I mean, it's an ongoing saga. I mean, pick your state agency. DHS is my normal choice.
Well, and this is what makes you so perfect for this, because this type of thing is right in your element. What's been obviously demonstrated by DHS, and is the term criminal malfeasance fucking appropriate in some of these cases? Like, I mean, so I think it's right up the area. The same bullshit is being pulled across the board interagency. For the same reasons of covering their ass and making and politicizing things, and lack of oversight and overstretching in the wrong areas, is the same type of shit we're seeing here. And that's it. So that's what I think makes you, and that's why I picked you as my lawyer and my friend.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And that's why I think makes you the best person that really understands the level of what's going on, and why you need to be leading these. In my opinion, you need to be leading these work groups. You need to be, when it comes to speaking about rules and regulations, a lot of this I think should be funneled through you, how the law is interpretable, what's a state regulation, get everybody, Green the Vote, Oklahomans for Health, New Health Solutions, everybody that's really pitching regs to run these through you and send out one finite piece of regulation that represents the will of everybody involved and how it can be implemented through the consultation of people like Ron Durbin and Bud Scott and Chip Paul and Isaac Cavernous and Chris Moe. But ultimately, though, through the funnel of what is your scope and your judge of character, and in my opinion, like, you've been on point the whole time. So, like, I would get behind that plan in a heartbeat.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, my goal is, as you and I talked about this from the beginning, is to just make sure what was passed is what is implemented, and we get the program that the people voted for in place, and that it complies with the law, and we don't have a situation whereby they restrict what was passed by legislation, where they don't restrict it by regulation, which is really what they're doing. And that's not what we want to happen. If it didn't pass, okay, it wouldn't have passed, but it did pass. And the legislature, the board, everybody now has to get on board with that. And we're seeing, I believe, based off that meeting that I was at today with the legislator, with them actually trying to get on board and do what the people want. I don't understand what's happening at the Department of Health, other than they are not elected officials, they are appointed officials, and they don't have the same kind of accountability, nor are they really necessary. They've been sued individually, but they're not really subject to personal liability the way that other people are.
When you went up there today, you got to speak once. I personally think you got a lot to say and a lot to add. I personally feel through our interactions, which has been more numerous than anybody else I've worked on the issues with in the state, that your understanding of cannabis law in other states through our work together, and your research that you've done, looking, in the right areas to see, what's what, you are as qualified to speak on the issues asked to you today as anybody that was sitting at that table. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. That being said, I know you got to talk to some people afterwards, because I got to talk to people afterwards, and I went and made my rounds and dropped my bullet notes on different legislators and senators and representatives. And how was your overall vibe of dealing with that group of people before the Department of Health?
Those that I talked to after the meeting, there was a lot of positivity after the meeting. One of the things that was said to me was they were glad to see me up there with the group in the second half of it, because it was a lot of old white men, and that there are actually a lot of women involved with cannabis, and that that wasn't representative of who was up there speaking today. And so they were glad to see me get up there. Other people said that I touched on a couple of areas that needed to be talked about, namely 796 and 797, that had been danced around and hadn't been talked about or asked about. The other thing was that they felt like the legislatures were asking good questions and were wanting to hear. Kind of the one thing that comes back to is 788 created 8 statutes. 8. We have 85 chapters of law and I don't know how many statutes. We have a constitution, we have administrative code. It's like everybody has suddenly forgot that all this law exists and works in conjunction with 788 and those 8 statutes that were passed. And everybody's really overcomplicating this idea of medical marijuana because, oh my God, we just made drugs legal. This isn't the first place to do it. We're not going to be the last place to do it. We have other regulations in place, and it's just like this one overly broad rule. You just need some tweaks here and there. And if we just take the time to read it and use what we already have in place, it really doesn't have to be so hard. But everybody is so wrapped up in the idea of what it is that they won't do it.
You know, I agree. A lot of people don't know this, but we have a group message going right now with multiple representatives of trade groups. Everybody's kind of under the same, for the most part. Not everybody has chimed in. For the most part, though, we have established, you know, the necessity of us working together on the issue. I think this week could be a good week if we get everybody focused. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah.
So, these rules aren't that bad. There are oversteps. They're not that bad in total. There are a couple of rules that are really bad. The ones that are bad are really, really bad. But overall, I commend what they did in reducing it down. They still have some oversteps. There's still some things that can be finessed.
Does that make you think they just don't know? Is this not malicious? Is there the chance that this isn't malicious at this point? Or do you still think it's malicious?
I don't know. I don't know, Giddy, okay? I don't know. I think it's a little malicious because of that meeting that we had this morning, and we said genuinely, here's a problem. Bates recognized that there was a problem. Bates lawyers recognized that there was a problem. Passed it anyway when they that feels a little malicious.
Sorry, it was my turn to be popular.
Oh, that's okay. I was like, did I lose you?
All right. I mean, so the same plan of attack last week is the same plan of attack for this week, only now even our perceived opposition has even said the same thing to us. Eccles said something today, and it was on tape, and to be perfectly honest, I had to go back and delete my comments off of the thread because I was mother, and my eyes rolled back into my head. And it was after a series of questions to everybody up there. And I think you know which moment I'm talking about too, because the questions that he asked are things that I've been referencing for the past few weeks, saying that this is part of what is left out of everybody's shit. Canopy
what
limits,
we've been talking about.
Right, canopy limits, a lot of the business aspects of it, not necessarily the home grow or, but the business aspects of it.
Correct.
He asked him these questions, and everybody was agreed in spirit, but all had kind of a different take on it. And they all kind of tried to almost seem to identify themselves by the difference in their take on that. At the end of that, Eccles said, well, you can kind of see how it's hard for us to regulate you if you can't agree on it yourselves. And I think that if you guys were unified and you came in here and you all knew what you wanted, you'd get everything you wanted done today. It was him saying they didn't think we were being unreasonable and self-regulating. So I think that echoes what I've been screaming all week, what we've been talking about and trying to form this union of them. So that's set with me. I look forward to talking to Floor Leader Eccles in the coming hours. I know he's had a long day, so I'm waiting to hear from him.
Yes, he did a great job. I appreciate all the work that he did today. I mean, he's trying to get everybody together. As we talked about, he kind of tasked me as working with all the various groups, and thus you, with trying to get a unified front. And he did say to the group, if y'all had come together to write all of this in the beginning, you could have had everything that you wanted. So, and he ended it with that again. So let's get it together. Let's get it done, whether it's writing legislation, rules, whatever.
Unwriting shit, throwing shit out the window.
Unwriting, yeah, whatever.
Let's strip this fucking boat down to as minimum weight as we got on it and get us going true. Which has kind of always been the deal. We need to get it under 100 pages. We need to get it under 100 pages.
Yeah, under 100 pages. I mean, we're starting with 8 statutes, like I said, created by 788, and really of which 7 are substantive, because the 8th one says if anything in here is deemed to be unconstitutional, we take that part out and we keep all the rest. I created a 6-page document that broke down all the different things that were the Department of Health's obligations, the rights that were created out of 788, the licenses, all the different authority, and I used a term of art from one of my law school professors, which was weasel words, which was where the lawyers can dance around and manipulate it. And I found the holes, and some of the holes relate to the criminal implications and, the canopy limits and things like that. And so we can develop 788, whether it's through rulemaking or through legislation or whatever. But the one thing that 788 does give the people of Oklahoma is enough information and regulation to get the program up and going. We don't have to have a special session. We can, that's great, because there are things that need to be fixed.
One of the things that they need to really understand too, and you can tell me what you think of this, is they need to understand the door of liability they're opening by putting applications out, and the way 788 is written, and what's on the books.
Well, there ain't no applications out. They violated the rule on that.
And that's what I'm saying. So if they throw some shit out under some bad regs that they have to change around, and they send out applications, and then they don't approve applications, you're going to have people suing them individually for money, not for rule change, for dollar bills, right?
That's potential looking at things, yes. And because then you start talking about professional licenses. If you look at these as a professional license, you get into constitutional standards of violation of and taking back professional licenses. So, and then constitutional standards on passing legislation as opposed to arbitrary and capricious in rulemaking. So,
but I mean, if I'm a citizen and a public application is open for a particular licensing, and then I apply for that, and by the law, the way the law is written, if then nothing is provided to me, if I fill that out and go through that process and nothing is provided to me, does that not have certain liabilities to them? Are certain services not required to be provided to me when I pay that money and I do that, in the public license area?
well, yeah, I mean, you've got to go through the statute says here are the requirements. The license shall be issued if you meet these requirements. They shall. It's mandatory. They have to do it. So if you meet the requirements, they got to issue the license. There's no choice. And if they don't do that, then yeah, whether it might not necessarily be monetary damages, but it could be. That's something that has to be looked at, is whether it's just injunctive relief or whether it's monetary relief.
Well, and I think a number of monetary lawsuits backing up, going for the same thing on the same violation. If they speed, and that could be our counterpunch. If they try to force bullshit through on us, as soon as they make the applications open, everybody that can qualify should apply for a license. And in 2 weeks, when you don't get your license, fucking file a lawsuit, because they're not going to have the ability to even print the license off and give you a license. And if they don't want to comply like that, then all right, you want to do it like this, then where's my motherfucking license in fucking 14 days?
Well, and then there's going to be some sort of allegation of impossibility, and we're going to have to look at all of that. And so what we don't want is to tie it up like Arkansas.
Totally, we don't. But I mean, by the time we get to the point to where they are obviously not willing to work with us to give us the program that we are by law fucking deserve,
right?
Then do we start arguing their ineptitude as a regulatory agency to even regulate it and call for that part of it to be stricken and changed in itself?
Well, yeah, so that's part of one of the things that we talked about today, was that the Department of Health isn't the proper agency to do this. There should be a separate cannabis regulatory commission. And that was something that actually we all talked about, that as being something that's appropriate.
Totally.
Bud's proposal actually has it the most developed, and that needs to be pulled out and looked out of there.
Talking commercial license, not.
But do what?
Somebody said something. I told him I'm not talking about a private medical license. I'm talking about a commercial license.
Right.
Commercial license.
So, but Bud had a proposal for creating a cannabis commission, and I agree, and everyone else agrees, that it needs to be a cannabis commission that regulates this, and it needs to have activists and members of business members of the community, patients, doctors, etc., from a wide variety of citizenry that are on that commission, that are doing the rulemaking, and that the proper rulemaking authority enabling language that is lacked in 788 needs to be put in place for that agency to do it.
That's the seat that I've been kind of campaigning for. Is a member,
right.
A position at that seat. Yeah, a position at that table would be immense. I mean, I think there's a lot of good people to choose from in the industry in Oklahoma too.
Right. I think we need lawyers. We need experts from the industry like yourself. We need activists.
Fire department, and building, like coding. Fuck. Big ass beetle. Building management, I think, deserves a seat at the table so we can talk coding and unify coding. All the things that nobody's even talking about yet. Those are the type of people we want at the table, and people that have, few people like me that have experience. I'm not saying just take solely my word for it, but we need some real well-rounded, regulated experience present to talk about how that affects business, how that affects patients, and some people that can explain their work. Show your math type people.
Right. Right, because you have multiple different industries that are affected by cannabis. You have agriculture, you have pharmacy, you have medical, you have lawyers. It goes across multiple industries. It's a multidisciplinary type of thing, and that's part of the issue that the Department of Health has in regulating it. For example, the first set of rules issued regulations for doctors. The Department of Health doesn't have the authority to regulate doctors any more than they have the authority to regulate lawyers, which is why the Oklahoma Bar Association met to talk about the rules for lawyers in advising clients in cannabis related businesses. The physicians boards meet and make standards for educations, for recommendations. And so, you know, again, it goes back to the point that I was making. We have these 85 titles in all.
Hey, I'm back. I'm sorry. I don't know if it froze me up.
I just got a call from Floyd Leader Eccles, so
Okay.
I think I'm going to hop off here and take that. I'll leave this video up. Do you want to just let people watch this and go from there? Is there anything you'd like to close on before I have to go? Is there anything before?
I do want to give
would
a
you like to
shout out.
talk?
I just saw. No, I'll leave it up. One thing I do want to say, people are asking about home grow. Home grow is fine. Medical licenses are good. That is the one thing I will give to the Department of Health that they did well, is that home grow and medical licenses, there's a few problems in there, but not anything that wouldn't be fairly easily resolvable, or even that I maybe couldn't live with. The big problem has to deal with the commercial licensees and the issue of the food and drug standards and just the conflicting language. I don't think it's sufficient to say we adopt all of these, except to the extent that they don't conflict with 788. I think it has to be better than that.
I'm with you on that. You want to talk to me privately before I talk to Eccles for any reason?
Not unless you think we need to.
No, I mean, no.
All right.
I'll let you know after I talk to him, and I'll leave this video up for a little while to get everybody get caught up.
All right.
I appreciate all the hard work, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.